Okay, and then my understanding is that this letter and that incident prompted you to get the Canon lawyer Michael
Right.
Podesky,
Right.
and he wrote a letter basically kind of outlining what have been the problems throughout the situation, right? And that
Yes.
and
Yeah.
and that's also on your blog, right?
Right. Hmm.
So that went to a cardinal, correct?
No, that initial letter just went to Bishop Nestow,
Okay.
because Michael's first intervention in this whole situation, he'd been advising me all along. But
Hmm.
at that point, when the bishop published this letter, Michael and I decided, okay, that you would handle my relations with the bishop is probably the smarter move at this
Right.
point, because the
Right.
bishop and I dealing directly with each other is not getting us anywhere. So he went through the letter that the bishop published. And at that time, that was private correspondence on Michael's part towards the bishop, asking the bishop to correct the record about things that he said there that weren't true.
Right.
Um, and that Michael never got a response to that. And meanwhile, I just
Gotcha.
tried to put out. I thought the best thing to do is make as publicly available the content that the bishop is referring to here, make that as widely and as easily available as I can to the people to read for themselves, to see if they agree with the bishop's assessment of it. So I just put, for my part, I just put the links up on a page that was easily accessible to people
Right.
on my blog.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, and that's how I got most of this information. If anybody wants to go get it, they can find it pretty easily. And if this gets posted, we'll put links on it. All right. So then on April 13, the bishop removes you from both parishes.
mhm, mhm.
All right, and then you write a subsequent letter to both your parishes, and say that I'm still your pastor until the full legal procedures run its course. It would take some time, and that's when Michael wrote the revocation and/or emendation of the decree.
Emendation, right?
Emendation. I'll have
Right.
to look that word up too, because I don't know that one either.
Right.
Emendation
Change.
of the decree, removing. So he's trying to reverse the bishop's uh, uh, removal of you as pastor of the two churches.
Correct. Right. Yeah. On the
Okay, now
ground.
go ahead.
On the grounds that there are procedures that have to be followed to remove a pastor against his will, and none of those had happened.
Right. Okay. Now at this time you're still living in the two rectories, right? You
Correct.
spend half the
Right.
time in Martinsville, half the time in Rocky Mount.
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I was still pursuing this because it was all done under Michael's advice, and it was solidly grounded advice that the way an appeal of a removal from a pastorate works is that the removal is suspended when the appeal is registered
Right.
until the conclusion. So I was asserting that I wasn't trying to get in the bishop's face there per se. I was just saying what
Right.
Mike told me is the legal procedure, so
Right.
that I was trying to help the people not panic and say, at least for the time being, everything's going to stay the way it was.
Right. So
Until
you believe that you were gonna still be in the rectory, were you still gonna do masses, you were able to do confessions, all the sacraments you were still responsible for while the appeal process was moving forward.
correct, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Um so I'm gonna jump ahead to the point where the administrator, who is Kevin Sedgerbloom, Father Kevin Segerbloom,
Sarah Blum. Mhm.
Segerblom from St. Andrews, is responsible for administering the two churches, but you don't believe that's necessary because of the fact that you're still the pastor, because of your belief about the appeal process.
Correct. Yeah,
So
that became a pretty clear bone of contention pretty quickly.
yeah,
Um,
so he tried to call you, or he came down and said, I'm going to do the masses, and you said, no, I'm still going to do the masses, and you did the masses for a couple weeks,
right. Hmm.
correct? And he kind of complied with that. He just kind of put it off, and later on he tried again, I guess the next week, to come down and do the masses.
Right. It was during that period that the bishop himself made another surprise visit to Rocky Mount.
Right.
To celebrate the
That's what
mass.
I'm getting to. April 18th, when I first started understanding what you were getting involved in, the first thing that I watched was Bishop Nestout's Sunday Vigil Mass, where he was celebrating and you were co-celebrating back behind him, and then he gave the homily about this whole old wound, which was a word that was new to you, I guess. So he came, and you didn't know he was coming. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, I had no
Okay.
idea.
So he just walks in before mass. Now this was a streamed mass, right? So
Correct.
there was a camera there and probably a camera person, some
Mhm.
technology person, and he came in and basically said, "I'm doing mass for you today."
Correct. Yeah. Right. And
Okay.
Father
Did
said,
he ask you to celebrate, or did you say no? That's fine. I'll co-celebrate. Was that an agreement that you asked to do that, or did he say, "Hey, come on, co-celebrate with me"?
he told me that I was permitted to celebrate if I so chose.
Okay. All right. Did you know what was going to happen in that mass? Because that was the most uncomfortable 45 minutes of me, and I had nothing to do with it other than I knew you as my priest from 2014 and 15, and I thought you did the most. I think it's probably, with the exception of a Latin mass, it is the most reverent mass that I've ever seen. Okay, and I enjoyed you doing it. But then I'm sitting there going, okay, he's standing in the back, and Bishop Nestow is going to say something after when he gets to the point where he's ready to do his homily. Um, so how did you feel about that? And how did you stay so calm?
I appreciate you asking. I mean, yeah, that was a gift from the Lord, I guess. I mean, I love the Mass, and he's the bishop. I mean, the basic realities of the church were on my mind. I mean, for a priest to could celebrate a Mass with his bishop is a beautiful thing, in and of itself. It was a chance for me to do that. I tried to focus on that.
Right.
And I wanted, if he chose whatever he would choose to say, I wanted to hear it. I wanted to take it in and be willing to listen to it. Um, and I mean, I also knew that the whole thing was confusing to everybody involved and the people on the other end of the phone. I mean, my heart was going out to the people that were looking at this on the other end of that phone,
Right.
and I just wanted to be there for them in the best way that I could. And it seemed like just staying calm, doing my thing was what I could do. So that's what I tried to do. So,
Okay. Well, God bless you. I don't know. I would have had to go through seminary probably 3 or 4 times to be able to stand and listen to the homily of that thing. I think I probably would have missed every single word because I would have been praying so hard that I didn't I
um,
didn't do something that I really
yeah,
shouldn't have done.
God, Lord
Um,
bless you for that, Dale. Bless you for that.
so then after that, Father Kevin comes down and he tries to do mass a couple weeks in a row, and eventually you get to the point where that I guess on May 6th, the bishop published a notice to the diocesan website that I'm now prohibited from celebrating the sacraments and ministering in any way.
Mhm.
And then I think was that before or after the cardinal denied your appeal?
That was before,
I guess it was
considerably before.
before.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, about a month and a half before.
Okay. So
Yeah.
then my understanding is that even though you couldn't celebrate masses, you were still standing out in front of the parishes to welcome the people into your church where you couldn't celebrate mass with them.
Yes, yeah. When the time came
Yeah.
that we started having the public masses again,
Right.
which
Right.
was I think a week or two later, it occurred to me that that would be the right thing for me to do. I mean, the best place for me to be when the people were coming back to mass was at least because I guess we had mentioned that in the meantime, just a few days after I was suspended, the locks, the keys were changed on the buildings, and I was ordered out of all the properties, not to
Right.
return to any of the properties. So I didn't want to cause any kind of public disturbance about that. But I thought if I stand on the edge of the property line, then I'm not really disobeying that, but I'm giving the people a chance to see me and me them. And because for
Right.
that their experience was coming back to mass for the first time in 3 months, um, and that I mean that was a kind of big experience for them in and of itself. And I didn't it struck me that it would be worse for me not to be there than for me to be there. And the way for me
Right.
to be there was to stand at the entrance.
Right. And I was shocked that somebody would actually go to the civil authorities to put basically a restraining order, a no trespass document
Mhm.
for a priest
Right.
that cares as much about the parish and the parishioners as you do. I don't understand that. And okay, so let's get to the big questions here. So